With Danny Ramos tonight, this evening. I'm Glenda Chauncey with the Law and You segment this evening, and we have Tracey Kagan, who happens to be a criminal defense attorney
in
Orlando, Florida. And she's our guest tonight, and we're just going to kind of go through some questions, a little bit about you and what it is that you do for people out there that get into trouble. First of all, let's talk about where you're from, how you got into law, what was the decision factor to do that?
Well, that's a long story, but I'm from New York. I'm admitted in New York and Florida. I was a public defender in New York City for 9 years. And I was a prosecutor in Seminole County for a time, and I've been a private attorney in Orlando now for the last 16 years. So I've been doing criminal law for 22 years. 22 so if it's criminal, I know it.
So you've probably seen a lot of changes over the years, I'm sure, watching different legislations, and one of the bigger ones is the Mothers Against Drunk Driving, I guess, is a powerful. Yeah, they're pretty powerful in our state. Well, let's get a couple of questions out, and let's see, our viewers, so they can kind of understand what you specialize in and what's important to you as an attorney in criminal defense. Biggest question I think a lot of people like to ask is, what do you do when you get arrested?
When you get arrested, the first thing that you do is you remain silent. You invoke your rule to remain silent. The last thing you want to do is open your mouth and start talking. The police are not there to be your friend. They're not there to dismiss charges. They're there to do their job, and your job is to remain silent and get an attorney as quickly as possible, or call your family to get an attorney as quickly as possible.
Well, that's great advice, because I know a lot of times people make that mistake. They think by giving this information it's protecting themselves, but we all know that that could go against you, obviously.
Don't make any written statements, any oral statements. Just keep your mouth quiet.
And let me ask you this, in a traffic violation, now knowing that somebody may have a history or record, but can they physically be arrested for a traffic violation?
You could be stopped for a traffic infraction. You could be arrested. There are criminal traffic violations, DUIs, driving on a suspended license, being a habitual traffic offender. But you have to be stopped if you observe an infraction, a red light, a stop sign. That you have to have a reasonable cause, a probable cause for the stop, and then you can get arrested.
Well, what if the reason wasn't a probable cause, and it was something that, maybe the police officer was a little overzealous to say that you did something or didn't do something? Maybe did he run a tag and see that there was a problem before?
Well, they could run a tag. They could run the David. It's called on the David system, and they could run and see whether your license is suspended or not, whether your tag's expired, and then they could stop you for that infraction. They can only keep you for a certain amount of time for that infraction and write you a citation. If they observe something else, if they smell cannabis in the car, if they see contraband or a weapon in the vehicle, then they can search your vehicle. But if not, they can only keep you long enough time to give you the citation.
Correct. Now, knowing that our economy right now, I think people are majorly stressed out, to say the least, with the job loss, things like that, and I think a lot of people sometimes go to that side of drinking because maybe that's the way they can deal with their stress and their issues. Have you seen an increase in DUIs? Just out of curiosity, have you seen this happen in the last couple of years or so?
I've seen an increase in DUIs, not just because of the stress in the economy, but because DUIs are revenue producing. And DUIs produce a lot of revenue for the county. A normal DUI can run you, forget the attorney fees, but a normal DUI can run you anywhere from $1,500 plus classes. And a DUI is really two separate cases. You have to deal with the criminal court, it's a misdemeanor, and DMV. So then you have to go through licensing to get your license reinstated. It's very cost prohibitive.
So if say for an example, I don't want to use me as an example, let's say a friend gets pulled over, they get a DUI. What is really, because I hear the cost, people say it can go anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000. I mean, is that?
No, that's a bit exorbitant. I think for a first-time DUI, it could probably run you about $2,000. Then it's an enhanceable crime. The more DUIs that you have within a certain period of time, the more expensive, the more sanctions are imposed. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it could be that high unless, of course, it's a DUI manslaughter or something along those lines.
So, and I know there's a lot of community service that has been implemented, and I think, again, that's probably the strength of MAD and
SAD. There's a lot of programs. Sometimes some of the judges have you write essays. If there's a DUI with property damage or bodily injury, they may have the victim there to speak to that. You may have to address the family. You may have to do an essay on road markers.
Wow.
One judge in Seminole County has you go to different road markers and write a 500-word essay on the profound effect it has on you.
Yeah. And and rightly so. I mean, I think some people have to take accountability. I mean, if you're going to drink and drive, you're getting behind a wheel, you really could change someone's life.
Oh, no.
I mean,
absolutely.
You have to really consider that. And I know that a lot of bars try to be proactive. I know a lot of places try to be proactive. I know you can't fully stop it. I mean, that's probably impossible. But the question I have, because this is something that amazes me, you're parked, you realize you're drinking and driving, and you realize, I'm not driving too good, so I'm going to pull off on the side of the road.
Right.
But I want to leave my keys in the ignition.
That's an excellent point. Well, I'm a defense attorney, so my knee-jerk reaction is, and to the jury also, didn't you do the smart thing? Didn't you exercise proper judgment? He pulled off the side of the road. He knew he was impaired. All right, so he left his keys. We live in Florida. You want the air conditioning on. You're not going to sit in a hot car. But merely having the keys in the car in Florida law means that you're technically driving, and that gives them probable cause to charge you with DUI.
So you literally could be arrested sleeping in your car just because you kept the key in the ignition.
You could be arrested any time, but you have some good defenses. If you have a good attorney, you have some good defenses. And if you have a good jury, a smart jury.
That recognizes that. Now, okay, so let's say I pull off the side of the road, because I'm just thinking, could happen one day.
Yes.
And I take the key out and I throw it in my glove compartment, or I put it on a back tire. What happens then?
Well, then you're pretty good. I mean, then you have a great defense. Even if they do a DUI investigation and subsequently arrest you, you have an excellent defense because the engine's not running. The case law in Florida is if the engine is running or the key's in the ignition, theoretically you're driving. So if your key is in the glove box or in the trunk, then you're not technically driving. Doesn't mean they won't arrest you, just means you have a better defense.
Okay, so let's say I'm on the side of the road, I threw my keys in the glove compartment, and now they want to search my vehicle.
Well, they'll do a DUI investigation first. They have to place you under arrest to do a search of your vehicle unless they see something in plain view. Under the law, they cannot just stop your vehicle and search your vehicle.
So they can't go in the back of my trunk and somebody placed something in my trunk that could be very damaging or could really send me to prison.
If you're under arrest for a DUI, then absolutely they can search your vehicle.
Really?
Yes. If you're under arrest for, if you're pulled over for running a traffic light and they smell cannabis and they search your vehicle and they find a bag in the trunk, you could be charged with possession of marijuana over 20 or under 20 grams or oxycodone or whatever. You could be charged with it. But if there's other people in the car, again, you have a better defense. If the car's not registered to you, I mean, these are the things you need. I mean, you need to. The truth is that you need to have a good attorney.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and I mean, do you really specialize mainly in DUIs? Is that what?
No, I specialize in all criminal law. I've been doing criminal law for 22 years now. I do a lot of possession charges, trafficking charges. Those are serious charges. They carry mandatory and minimum penalties, burglaries, sexual battery. I do a lot of DUIs also. Pretty much, I've done it all. Across the board, I've done it all. I do traffic tickets too. It depends who comes in and who needs help.
Right, gotcha. So let me ask you this. Basically, this DUI happens, and I know there's, the second offense, the third. I mean, when does it really get to the point where it becomes real damaging? Like, is it your second DUI, your third? I mean, what is?
If you have a second DUI within 5 years, it's mandatory jail time. At a minimum, 10 days in jail.
Okay.
On a first-time DUI, the judge can give you a year probation up to a year in the county jail. On a second DUI, within 5, mandatory jail. On a third DUI, within 10, then the sanctions get a lot higher. Then the jail time gets higher. A third DUI could also be a felony and not a misdemeanor.
Right.
And then, of course, it's enhanceable if there's property damage, bodily injury. The stakes get higher.
Right.
So, unfortunately, I tell my clients that are young, I tell most of my clients, you should fight the DUI because it's a permanent stain. A DUI conviction stays on your record for 75 years. Wow. So once it's there, it's there. You can't expunge it, you can't seal it. Other crimes you can expunge, you can seal, but not a DUI, and it'll affect your insurance. So it is serious. It's big business. And and you want to protect yourself.
Well, speaking of big business, and I kind of like your personality because you go over into a little bit of a side that I don't see from a lot of attorneys, I must admit, although one that I work for is kind of like you. Let me ask you this, because there's the big debate in our political systems right now to legalize marijuana, for an example.
It'll be fabulous for the environment, and I think it should be decriminalized. It'll be horrible. I won't be able to pay my mortgage. But on the other hand, I have to be. I'm pro for that being decriminalized, but I'm also, and this might not be politically correct, but prostitution. I mean, I don't think that you can sanction something that's natural or tell somebody what they can do if it's only harmful to themselves or if someone else wants to.
Correct. And let's face it, the men in all powers, be politicians, entertainers, whoever, they all pay for it. So, why do we keep criminalizing that? Because it goes along with the drugs too. It's hand in hand.
You touched on something really interesting about marijuana. Depending on where you go, what county you're in, what state you're in, I don't think that there's any predictability, and there's no. And when you don't have that predictability and there's too much discretion involved, you get too many discretionary sentences. You could be in a county like Polk County and get stopped for marijuana, misdemeanor marijuana, and get a year probation, random drug test, community service hours, and a conviction. And any drug conviction, whether it's marijuana or not, you lose your license for 2 years.
Wow.
Any drug conviction. And then and in Orange County, if you get stopped with maybe a little marijuana or a small joint in your car, you can maybe get a withhold of adjudication in court costs. It's too discretionary.
Right.
There's too much discretion there. There has to be, I think, something that's universal.
Well, I'm a libertarian, so let's face it. I think the problem, the issue is, unfortunately, in a political standpoint, and also in a money standpoint, there's so much money made in the prison systems to, all these ways.
Yeah, but we're warehousing nonviolent.
Yeah,
we're warehousing a lot of nonviolent offenders, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, and it's going to be a debate for a long time, obviously, but I think we are getting closer.
We'll get there. We'll get there. It's got to come from the West and eventually seep into us.
Yeah. California, we do have some states
My sister's an attorney in San Francisco, and it's decriminalized there. And I don't see the rise in crime.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Well, there we got one good side of a debate there. And one last question I'm going to ask you before you give us a little bit more information about you and how we can reach you. Do you see yourself ever getting into a position to run for a judge?
No, I don't want to. I don't think I want that pressure. I don't think I like the freedom that I have, the flexibility that I have. I love what I do. I've been doing it for 22 years. I love representing people. Every case is different. Every person is different. Every fact pattern is different. And it's interesting. And I think sometimes when you become a judge, it becomes too much.
Yeah. You just got to kind of go one way or the other, black and white kind of.
Yeah, you're forced to follow certain laws that you may not agree with.
Exactly. Well, Tracey, it has been a pleasure having you this evening. Please tell the audience this evening how they can reach out to you. You can, right here in the middle camera, you can tell them.
If you need me or want me, you can reach me at my office at 407-849-9990. On my cell phone, 407-538-8885. I give free consultations, and I would address the fact that if you are arrested, call me before you do something or say something that can get you in further trouble.
Great advice. We like that. Thank you so much for joining us this evening at Speak Out TV. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.